Hello and welcome to the Ireland Rugby Social. Gavin Andrews, Conor Murray and Rob Kearney, special guest after what was a fairly savage start for Ireland in the Six Nations Championship. How are we feeling, lads? Immediate post-match, deflated?
Yeah, downbeat. I tried to hold on to a bit of optimism post-November, and we had hoped we would turn a bit of a corner, and we analysed the game beforehand, and the line-out scrum, they pretty well stood up to the challenge tonight, and that was a good platform. But France, in fairness, were awesome, and we struggled to get a foothold in the game, which was the worry.
It almost felt like the pre-Brian O'Driscoll hat-trick days where you worried going to France. It feels like there's a gulf now. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it just, because of what happened in November, and people, the public, and a few people started panicking about where this team is going, and you look to draw positives on our phase play, which has been a strength of ours for a long time. That wasn't there. You spoke about inaccuracies and handling and things like that haven't been cleaned up. So yeah, it was weird coming into this game, fearing going to France, because through a period of time we've gone through, France wasn't that scary a place to go to. I know France have gone up a level since then, but just an odd feeling going into this game. And like Rob said, I suppose, not being surprised. I'm slightly surprised in the manner we lost and how dominant France were over us, and then we couldn't get a foothold into the game. But yeah, like, it's not being harsh. It's just, there is a little bit of a gulf in terms of where this team was.
Let's break it down. First half in particular, what went wrong?
Even when we saw the weather beforehand, when Trimby was doing his bit, we were like, okay, that could actually be a bit of a leveler here, and that's probably a weird way to think as an Irish rugby fan nowadays as well. And you thought it'd be tighter, and then France played with such pace, such accuracy in those conditions. They are a serious outfit at the minute, and playing in the Stade de France, when they get their tails up, when the crowd get involved, it feels unstoppable. And there were patches of play that they went through with, I would say Jalabert was out of Dupont and Jalabert was the man tonight, and he just pulled the strings. He looked a different class, where you associate him with, warm weather, Bordeaux, throwing the ball around. He did it in those conditions. So that is a worry for the rest of the competition, I think.
Yeah, but it also points to Ireland's defence too. There's no way that on a wet night like tonight that the French team should have been given the amount of time and space on the ball as they were. So it's pretty self-explanatory. When the ball is wet and slippy, it's considerably harder to execute catch pass. So the opposition attack becomes harder. So what you do is you double your line speed, you ramp it up, you go after them an awful lot more to make it harder for them to execute those skills under the pressure of a slippier ball. And we just didn't do that. We sat off them, and we'd let them play their own game. And Jalabert played in a dinner suit for the whole match.
Do you reckon is it like a fear thing once? That was probably the plan, to go in with that line speed and ramp it up, especially when the weather came in. And then is it like when a couple of offloads stick for them and they get in behind you, is it like mentally
the natural instinct is to sit back?
Yeah.
Whereas, there's real bravery in actually going after a team. Really defensively going after them,
shutting it down,
it down. That's the harder, more uncomfortable way to defend. And yeah, we sat off them, and I think we missed 19 tackles in the first half, which, okay, you're never going to win a game like that. And Conor mentioned it at the start, the aerial battle, we absolutely got hosed in that area. We came off second best by a long way.
Because you boys made your careers out of aerial strength. You kicking, Conor and Rob, you didn't drop a ball pretty much ever.
Yeah, it's a big part of the game, it is. And
set piece, isn't it? It's another set piece, as we've talked about. Yeah.
And particularly at international level, when the stakes are higher, the pressures are higher, mistakes get magnified more. It's an area of the game that Ireland have been so strong at since forever.
Yeah.
And maybe we're just a little bit more disappointed at losing the aerial battle because it's not something that you associate with Irish teams.
And I think people will assume that we kicked a lot and we just didn't win the ball back, which is true. But France kicked an awful lot as well. Like, when you talk about it in international rugby, like the ins they get into the game, you know, they played really well and they looked like they had French flair at an awful lot of stages during that game. But they kicked as much as Ireland probably. I haven't seen the stats yet, but they just won that aerial battle. And then, you know, it's like a scrummer line out. It's a set piece, and all of a sudden and it suits their game plan. You know, quick transitions. Defenses are a little bit all over the place, and they can open up and literally feed their speed.
I think the ultimate insult in the first half was when the two locks linked for the third try.
And the prop
and
Grow.
The loose head prop.
Yeah.
He fixed. It was.
Sam.
Yeah.
Took it to the line perfectly, and just at the last second gave the pass. Now, again, the play before that was a Jalibert chip kick over the top. Jemison could have shut it down. Ball ricocheted off Jalibert's arm back into a French player. So, you know, you make your own luck. Yeah. Yes. But it was an element of, you know, been a little bit.
I almost thought he whipped that back. I thought that was intentional.
No, that was a ricochet.
No, was it?
Yeah.
We're not giving him that one.
Not yeah. He did plenty good, so just don't give him too much.
Did they have more X factor across the park than we do? Then is that the brutal truth here?
Categorically, I don't think that's even up for discussion.
Yeah.
You know, Irish teams since forever have been criticised of not having enough X factor within our team, and, you know, if I'm being honest, I think a large part of it is just genetic makeup.
Numbers, like the players they get to choose
numbers, from. And that's something that we're always going to have to contend with. So then you go to the areas of the game that, okay, well, where can we be the best in the world? And maybe that's why we're scrutinising the aerial battle so much and kicking, and we want to be the smartest rugby team and the best handling, which we were back for those few years when, you know, Murr was in his pomp, and it seems as if we've regressed in a fair few of those areas.
Does the provincial form this season from the likes of Leinster, who've looked pretty indestructible, did that template that tends to always translate into the Irish team, is that a bit of an alarm bell? Do we think the lack of form for Leinster has maybe translated a little as well?
Yeah, I think so. And it's not just Leinster, to be fair. It's Munster too. And, okay, Ulster are playing well, but rightly Leinster are the province dominating the majority of the selection. So, you know, if you look at the team at the moment now and we're saying, okay, they just look off, they look stale, there's flat, what's going on? There's probably not a huge amount of guys on that team playing with real confidence at the moment.
Do you reckon is there like a Lions hangover? Like
that's another thing. I definitely felt it after the two Lions tours I was on. You know, they're long seasons, the bodies start to break down. You know, you go for 12 months, you get 4 weeks off, and all of a sudden you're like, right, we're going back into this again. So
November comes around really quickly, and then you're into Europe, Interpros, that's all high stake games, intense games, and then you're into Six Nations. So I just think it could be something.
I definitely, absolutely, I definitely think that's a factor as well.
And they'll never say it, obviously, like they'll never come out and say it, but, you know, the sheer amount of Leinster lads, you know, and Tig with Munster, who were on that Lions tour and played big parts in that Lions tour, played till the last test. You just wonder, you're trying to find answers.
If you look at our team at the moment, you know, we have some world-class players on that team, but none of them are playing to the level of world-class player level at the moment. So is there anyone really on that Irish team at the moment who are at the peak of their powers? I don't think so.
It's just hard to fathom at the start of the Six Nations with the world watching on a Thursday night.
Yeah, because it's such a big event, like France away, Stade de France, full house, albeit a Thursday night, and the public would assume, like, everyone's up for it, like all the players are up for it. They probably feel like they're fresh, but you know, to deliver at that level and be, you know, world class and be that sharp, everything has to kind of fall into place. And you're just like, we're all wondering what the real reason is. And it's slightly off, but that's, you know, slightly off, and international rugby produces things like tonight, I think.
Big moments for Andy Farrell. How do you think he's feeling? What do you think he'll be doing over the next day or two, and what will he be saying to them?
Yeah, but like, listen, he's not gonna panic, is he? Do you know, to be honest, I was less concerned about the performances in November for the reason that, you know, the guys were not very battle hardened. Okay, they were coming off that long tour. They hadn't played a huge amount of rugby. You know, went to Chicago. Half the team hadn't played over 100 minutes of rugby. So we lose that game. Okay, it was a tight game. It was in the balance for 60 minutes, and then you come up against South Africa, who are playing a different game to any other team in the world at the moment. So I had given them a little bit of a pass for November, but then in truth, you know, if you go back to September time and you looked at our fixture list, you would have said, okay, well, there's a very good chance now that we're going to lose to South Africa, we're going to lose to New Zealand, we're going to lose to France, and then we go away to Twickenham, and there's a good chance we lose there too. So it's the first time that this team have come under real pressure and real scrutiny. That's going to be a different challenge for them.
We'll find out who the leaders are, Conor. Now that a lot of the leaders have gone.
Yes, but there's still quite a number of leaders in that team. You know, you think of Farrell, obviously he's injured. Hopefully he gets back in. Caelan, Tig, you know, Jamison is a leader. You know, Gary. You know, there's enough boys in that. That was my hope this evening. Was, you know, there were still enough boys and world class players and leaders in the squad, albeit with the injury crisis. You know, for those boys to, you know, put an arm around the new guys in there and perform. So yeah, like testing times, you know, having been involved in leadership groups over the years, it comes down to, you know, to be in a group like that, and it was always said to us, you have to perform first and foremost before you speak or you demand something from your teammates. You have to be the player to perform. So, you know, it feels weird, you know, I was in the squad very recently, but I've been in that situation where, you know, our backs are against the walls. You need to find out who the leaders are, and the leaders, you know, first and foremost have to step up and perform, and then that's when, you know, when people start to follow.
I think it's also worth mentioning and be fair to the group as well that there is an injury crisis there too. You know, and maybe that's not something that we spoke about on the broadcast after the game. You know, but you take out Porter, Furlong, Bundy, Robbie, Hugo Keenan, Mac.
A lot of those players are...
Ryan Baird is an impact sub. You know, we don't have the playing pool where we can lose those type of guys and still be at that level.
We saw impact off the bench in the second half. Do you think going forward now, selection is wide open across the board? Or are we still that low on a playing pool that it's the usual suspect?
I think Andy's always open to it, and he always speaks about picking players on form and players who deserve a chance. And again, going back to November, when people started to talk about it creaking slightly, that's when people started bringing new names into the pod. And of course it does. Yeah, when the team doesn't perform to the level it's expected to, then, you know, you hope there's guys waiting in the wings. Now, we don't have the playing pool that other countries do have, but you know, the likes of Nick Timoney, who came on and looked really athletic and physical and had energy about him, because he's probably waiting for these type of opportunities for a while. So I think naturally if you know, if a team loses or it's not performing at the level it's hoping to, then you look around. But again, you can't just ring in 5, 6, 7 changes. We don't have the numbers for that, especially with the injury crisis as well.
a tough night for Sam Prendergast. Is that fair?
No, I think it's unfair.
Okay.
I do. I thought Sam played pretty well.
Defended well.
Kicked pretty well. Okay, there was a couple of Gary Owens that went long. There was one or two. Well, there was definitely one down the left-hand touchline where he tried a little grubber through. It might have been better going long. But no, I would have had Sam down as a pretty decent game tonight.
So, like for Nick's try, saw what Sam can do and why he's in the seat there. Just platform, as a halfback, like you're looking for platform. That's when you can shine, I suppose. And aerial game again. I sound like a broken record going back to it, but we didn't get any return. If maybe a little bit in the second half, but didn't get enough for Sam to drive the bus like he would like to.
Don't know what the possession stats, but I can't imagine they were. You have them there at little. And your
France 59%.
Notes there.
Okay, yeah.
Territory. Possession 55%, territory 59% of France.
Yeah, I probably would have thought it would have been a little higher.
I felt like it was more
on the
watching
French side, but of the possession that Ireland had, of that 40 odd possession, the amount of possession that we had on the front foot was very limited. And if you're a halfback getting shit ball on the back foot, getting pushed back, it's very difficult to do stuff with it. Yeah, especially on a wet night.
A wet night, like, and you're forced. We heard on commentary about people asking for Ireland to stop kicking, but like, you can't get a foothold in the game. You're on the back foot. You're holding onto the ball is completely the wrong option. You know what I mean? You've no momentum. You've no space to attack to, so you're forced to kick at times. And I've been involved in plenty of nights like that where you're. People on the outside, they're criticising it, but you just don't have the platform.
That's the game at the moment now, though. The teams don't want the ball in their own half. The whole aim of the game now at the moment is to get into the opposition half and try and get the ball back there.
So Italy next. What happens in terms of selection, do you think?
I think he still goes as strong as he possibly can, because it's now an even bigger game that it was already going to be. Do you think? I don't think Andy changes too much. I don't he won't be feeling the boys went well against France. Obviously, let's trial a few lads. That's never really been the case. One or two areas maybe, but I think they just need to, like you talked about Mac and Hugo and these guys that are missing. They're such key ball players in that system, aren't they? And do you bring in new guys who aren't as do you change someone for Jamie at fullback or do you let Jamie go again and get more time in the saddle? I think he goes pretty similar.
I think he goes the same. Like tonight will be a damaging game for the feel good factor and the psyche and the mentality of this team now. So I think as a coach, what you want to do is just. Everybody just settle down. We haven't become a really bad team overnight. Let's get back to winning ways and start putting a bit of our own footprint back onto the game, how we want to play it.
Did you see enough positive there that they can perform against Italy, and then England is the big one? You did mention it.
Yeah, like we'll get a better read of Italy on Saturday after that game against Scotland. But, Italy at home shouldn't bother us too much. But then, like I say, you come off the back of a big defeat like that and confidence is going to take another hit. So that Italian game becomes more difficult for an Irish team now to go out there and to flourish and to show the best version of themselves.
It's always a expectation of the public as well when you play Italy at home that you're just going to wipe the floor with them. And I've played in a number of Italy games like you have at home, where it could take 60, 65 minutes.
It always takes 60, 65
it does. So the expectation now is the public and everyone knows Ireland they're still a good team. They're just they need to fire and get everything together. But it won't, they won't show up against Italy in the first 20 and rack up 4 or 5 tries. It's just not the way. That's all due respect to Italy at the minute. So it's not like, all right, we'll just pump Italy and then we'll go to Twickenham and have a shot. A lot of effort has to go into this Italy game first, and that's the hope. it's a long break as well, Thursday
Yeah, it
night
is.
until the next game. So it's a tough. The lads want to play pretty quickly again, I'd imagine. But
And Italy will smell a bit of blood too. They'll see a bit of weakness there. They'll see a team who are not mentally fragile, but coming off the back of a big defeat, who'll internally will probably be starting to question a little bit what they're doing.
A lot of time to think about it. Big week for the sports psychologists.
yeah, could be busy. Could be busy.
The boys will be hurting, won't they?
Yeah, because like the vast majority of I know how many was it? 7 lads hadn't played in the Stade de France tonight of the 15. But there's still a good bulk of that squad who have been there for quite a while and know what success feels like. So and have gotten used to, not used to it, but have definitely gone to France and won before. And a lot of that group were involved in the Marseille win 2 years ago as well. So they're going to be hurting because they expect more from themselves.
And one final one, I suppose, after an autumn where rugby was under the spotlight, didn't have too many good headlines for long games and all that kind of stuff, scrum resets. Was that a good night for rugby if you take the Irish hat off?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair comment. It was a great spectacle tonight. There was a brilliant intensity to it. Ball and play time seemed quite high. The quality of skill on display was very good. A good night for rugby, but great night for France. That was a sublime performance that they put together.
Yeah, they've still got it. We'll give you the final word.
Yeah, I think, as a spectacle, it was brilliant. And we were chatting about France is a lot of people's second favourite team because they're so good to watch. So as a rugby spectacle, it delivered. And, the refereeing decisions, we commented on a few of them. And the TMO that Michael Milner tried, it was made by the TMO in like 2 seconds, wasn't it? Which was brilliant to see, and it moved quickly. So, yeah, those are the positives. And my hope is, they dust themselves down. They still have the firepower to execute, Andy's game plan really well. And we just hope they find it.
France for the title, Ireland for the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Take that.
I'm going to go with that, yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
I can
with
see
that.
Twickenham being good.
Let's go with that. That's the Ireland Rugby Social. Thanks for listening.